Alright guys, the Championship did not disappoint this weekend. Plenty to talk over in today's video, dramatic comebacks, goals being scored and unlikely results as well. As always, I want to get your guys' verdict on everything in the comments down below. What do you make of your team's performance? And do leave a like if you want to enjoy the video and do stick around for some regular Championship content. Without any further ado though, let's jump into these matches. Starting out with Friday night's game between Norwich and Millwall at Carrow Road. Norwich picking up back-to-back wins, which I really don't think can be underestimated. At a point in this season, I know we're still early on, but the pressure was starting to creep on Dean Smith early doors, and it's amazing how quickly narratives can turn around in the Championship, particularly because of how thick and fast these games come around, especially with the midweeks. But once again, Josh Sargent being the hero for Norwich, couple goals for him in the second half, and some real notable performances out of this game. Sonani, I think, is continuing to grow into this season with Norwich. The more I see of Nunes, the more I absolutely fall in love with him. I think that Norwich have got an absolute gem on their hands there, and arguably, you know, the best technical player in the Championship, and I think that he's only going to go on and grow as the season goes on. I'm not getting carried away with these two Norwich wins, don't get me wrong. I still think they are very much a work in progress in terms of where they want to be in terms of a performance level come the end of the season, but this game was always going to be tough with the way that Millwall went ahead and set up, and in the end it was that quality in the final third which won this one for Norwich. But yeah, like I say, back-to-back wins can't be underestimated in the Championship, and how good that actually is for going on and generating a little bit of momentum when Dean Smith desperately needed it. And next up, we then had Wigan claiming their first win of the season away at Birmingham 1-0, and a superb away performance given the circumstances in this one. Went down to 10 men after just 10 minutes. Bennett sent off for going ahead and running sort of across Djukovic as he was through on goal. Referee deeming that one to be a red card. From then on, Birmingham having plenty of the ball, but a real lack of quality in the final third was apparent for this one, not moving the ball quick enough, and Wigan were quite happy to sort of sit in their shape and go ahead and break away on a few counter-attacks, and in the end that's where the goal came from. Lovely move from Wigan on transition, caught Birmingham out as they were a little bit further up the pitch, and a superb finish from Nathan Broadhead, who sort of gave John Ruddy the eyes and slotted it in at his near post. He'll bring that composure in front of goal, showed that last season with Sunderland in League One, and a terrific win for Wigan on the road there. And for Birmingham, not a great afternoon all things considered, especially as they were up against 10 men for the vast majority of this game. Next then, Burnley 3, Blackpool 3. What a mental spectacle taking place at Turf Moor, and I think we got to see probably both the best and worst of Burnley in this game really. First half almost absolutely flawless for them. We had the critique with Burnley up until this point that maybe at times they weren't penetrative enough in the final third. For this game they seem to be a little bit more direct with their passing and a little bit more, properly putting their foot down on the throttle. 3 goals in that first half. Teller with a brace, Brownhill with an absolute scorcher from outside the box as well. Blackpool did get that goal back at 2-1, but at that stage it really only seemed to be one side in this contest. Second half though, and I think we mentioned this before the season and what might be the case with what to expect from Burnley this year. A lot of, fantastic fluid football when things are going well and they're on top, but that inexperience perhaps coming into play in the second half, and fair play to Blackpool for going ahead and battling their way back into this game, because I do think that in a local derby especially, when you're 3-1 behind at half time, it's very easy for your head to go ahead and drop at that point. But brilliant work from Jordan Gabriel down that right hand side to assist the second goal for Blackpool, and then that equaliser looked like it absolutely went off in the away end. We then had the tempers boiling over at the end. To be honest, I'm not totally convinced it was a red card for Sonny Carey for his challenge, but the reaction from Matston after that all meant it all boiled over a little bit in the red. The referee ended up giving them both red cards. So yeah, Burnley showing quite a bit of naivety in that second half, but there were signs of promise to take from that first half in terms of what we could come to expect from Burnley long term going forward this season. And yeah, fair play to Blackpool for battling their way back into this one. Next up then, we had Preston 0, Watford 0. What on earth is going on at North End this season? Still yet to concede a goal in this Championship season. 5 games played, 5 5 clean sheets so far, but from a Preston perspective, we've only seen 1 goal scored so far. I do think that this game, probably more so than our other draws so far, was probably the fairest reflection in terms of both teams coming into this one, really. I thought the points were fairly shared out throughout this one. Preston had a few chances, Alan Brown had a couple of openings, Ryan Ledson hitting the post, DJ just having the chance going wide as well, and Watford, it did feel as if Preston got away with a couple, especially in the second half when they had a couple of one-on-one openings. Obviously Watford not quite at full strength, both João Pedro and Sarr missing from the squad at the weekend. I think there'll be quite a bit of reshaping to do for Rob Edwards between now and the end of this transfer window, and obviously Keenan Davis wasn't in the matchday squad either. It was a bit of a bizarre one from North End's point of view, really, because I didn't think that this was necessarily a case of bad finishing. I thought that Daniel Bachmann just had a very good game in net for Watford for this one, and someone from Watford's point of view who really caught my eye was a Sprilla for this one. Fantastic range of passing, and I think that he'll continue to grow into this season with Watford. So yeah, from a North End perspective, frustrating because it's another game where we failed to hit the back of the net, but I just think this was a case of us being a little bit unfortunate in this one. Daniel Bachmann having a very good game, as did Freddie Woodman in net for North End. Next then we have QPR playing out a 1-1 draw with Rotherham. Another decent point for Rotherham on the road here, and considering that they played a game less than everyone else because that game against Coventry got postponed, a really solid start for the Millers to this season so far. 4 games played, 6 points, back-to-back points on the road as well. Is certainly nothing to be sniffed at. From a QPR perspective, a little bit frustrating the manner of which they conceded that first goal from a set-piece situation, a little bit sloppy with a lot of bodies in and around the box, but Sharon Willock linking up for that equaliser. I'm sure that'll be a popular combination in terms of a goal output throughout the season. And in the second half there was plenty of endeavour from QPR, but like Rotherham did at Deepdale, defended their box really well, limited QPR to the chances which they ultimately couldn't take in this one, and another solid point for Rotherham on the road here, and it just couldn't quite click for QPR in that second half. And next up then, Reading 1, Middlesbrough 0. What a turnaround from Reading in this past week. We spoke about how quickly momentum can go ahead and shift in the Championship, and Reading have absolutely had that bounce on the back of that midweek result against Blackburn. Back-to-back wins against 2 really tough sides, Middlesbrough and Blackburn. The manner in which Reading have come through both those matches, I think their home form ultimately is going to be massive for them this season. 3 games played at home for Reading and 3 wins so far. Tyrese Forner with the only goal of the game, and what a hit it was as well. Had to ride out quite a few moments while Middlesbrough were on top in this one, but all without Middlesbrough properly crafting out all too many clear-cut chances in this one, and it's been quite a bizarre start to the season for Boro, really, because I wouldn't be getting all too, carried away with saying, this is, heading towards a disaster for Middlesbrough this season. I am conscious that we're only 5 games in, and I would still say that there have been signs of promise in each of their games so far, but frustration would probably be the best word to describe Boro and how they've gone about this season so far. Things just haven't quite clicked. They've not got all the right players and personnel into those slots, but just 3 points after their opening 5 matches is a massive disappointment for where Middlesbrough are at this point in time and where we expected them to be. But as a few sides have showcased over these last couple of game weeks, all it takes is a win in midweek, a win at the weekend, and you fly up the table. So that'll be the prerogative for Middlesbrough at the moment. But yeah, fair play to Reading. Flawless week for them after that Rotherham disaster. Speaking of teams building up momentum though, Sheffield United 3, Blackburn Rovers 0. Sheffield United now sitting pretty at the top of the Championship. 5 games played, 10 points on the board. I've got to say, I think Bramall Lane might be a real fortress for them this season. Flawless almost in this game, could have had more than the 3 goals they went on to score in this one. The free kick scored by Ollie Norwood really set the tempo of this game then, and Dye with 2 goals in the second half to cap that off. For Blackburn, they've almost fallen off a cliff over their last couple of matches. There's certainly no disgrace in losing away at Sheffield United with them in the sort of mood that they were in this one, but the manner in which they lost, the lack of any real penetration or chances being created in the final third, and the way they gave the ball away so cheaply at times for this one as well. We did mention with Blackburn, while they were riding high after their first few matches, the XG numbers, there was a little bit of a disparity, and we did expect that to go ahead and catch up to Blackburn, but to be to fall down to reality so abruptly as Blackburn have over these last couple of matches has been quite surprising. But great stuff from Sheffield United. I expect them to be really strong this season, especially at home. Next then we had Sunderland picking up all 3 points on the road against Stoke. Ross Stewart with the only goal of this game. Bit of a funny one really. It was probably Stoke who had the better of that opening 45 minutes, but caught out by a long ball at the end of that first half. Stewart latches onto it, and Bursic should do better for the goal realistically. But Sunderland going into half-time with that 1-goal lead, and I thought that it looked as if Corey Evans had a real impact coming on in that second half and just giving a little bit more control back to that Sunderland side. And from that point onwards, Stoke couldn't really craft anything out and go ahead and get back into this one. So yeah, more real frustration for Stoke in this one, but for Sunderland, great result on the road, especially given they probably weren't even at their best for this one. And next up then we had Luton picking up their first win of the season away at Swansea. Problems still remaining at Swansea over their start to the season. I know they collapsed in that midweek game against Millwall, but we said at the time that that was probably Swansea's best performance all round in terms of chances being created and what we expected to see of Swansea going forward this season. And so despite that collapse last time, I thought that would at least proved to be somewhat of a platform to go ahead and build upon heading into this game against Luton. That didn't transpire to be the case in the end, and Luton fully deserving of their 3 points in the end. First goal coming from that set piece situation, Campbell managing to fire it in from there, and Carlton Morris with a real moment of quality in the second half, absolutely rinses his way past Ben Cabango, and a terrific finish to go along with it. Luton massively in need of that, their first win of the season. It has taken a little bit of time to come. Some things in previous matches just haven't quite fallen for them, but yeah, good win there for Luton. Swansea, just something's not been right with them so far this season, and I was expecting them to really go on and build on that finish from last time, but so far there's been the same sort of frustrating inconsistency about them. Next then, and to the Hawthorns, we had West Brom 5, Hull City 2, much more like it from West Brom, and given the amount of chances they had been creating per game prior to this one, I think something like this was perhaps always in store for them. But 1-0 at half-time, things really got going in the second half for West Brom. John Swift really involved with everything West Brom were doing in the final third as well, and some brilliant strikes throughout this one. Probably Furlong with the pick of the bunch with his hit from outside the box. For Hull City, positives, Estupiñán getting the brace in this one, but this one just seemed to get away from them in the second half really, and was a mixture of a few things, some slack defending at times. I think that the injuries have really started to pile up now for Hull as well, which isn't helpful this early on into the season. And generally speaking, given the way that Hull play, particularly away from home, I do think that at times it is in a fashion where they do invite pressure onto their goal. So far this season, only Rotherham and Huddersfield average more shots against them per 90 than Hull do, which is a statistic I'm sure they'll be keen to go ahead and look into. But yeah, overall, much better from West Brom, just didn't happen for Hull. And then as our last game of the weekend, we had Bristol City beating Cardiff by 2-0, and a muchly deserved all 3 points for the home side. It was Conway and Atkinson with the goals, but Bristol City could have had more than the 2 they scored in this one. Did have the ball in the net on a couple of other occasions as well. That Masengo one early on in the first half, that was rightly ruled out for the foul, and then Vyman for the offside flag in the second half. Cardiff never really quite seemed to get going. You know, had Max Watters put away that chance in the first half, maybe this one is slightly different, but other than that, it was Bristol City with the better opportunities in this one, and it was really their midfield who got on top throughout this one, winning the ball back, more energy in there. Hano Masengo especially, I thought looked like an absolute gem throughout this one for Bristol City. I know there is a little bit of a sticking point at the moment with him and his contract issue, but on his day when he's on top form, he is, for me, one of the best midfielders in the Championship. I think he's an absolute joy to watch when he's properly in the mood, as he was throughout the afternoon in this one. So yeah, frustrating one for Cardiff, but Bristol City getting back on track. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, make sure to get your thoughts down in the comments below. Also, do leave down below any score predictions or so for a cup game if your team is involved. How are you feeling going into that in midweek? We'll be at Wolves in midweek, which I'm quite looking forward to. Other than that though, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.